Hello my dear students, welcome back to my channel. In this session, I am going to start with meiosis. It's a long time that I have met you face to face in front of the camera because of some little inconvenience to my throat. And now I wanted to start meiosis. This topic I am going to complete in mostly 2 or 3 sessions, 2 or 3 videos. So follow my videos very carefully from the beginning to the end. And also if you have joined for the first time, please subscribe and share to your friends to the maximum extent. And I can assure you very well, I can assure that these videos are going to be helpful to you in all your future studies. Either you are writing a board exam or any other entrance exam or any other degree exams also. So I also welcome any suggestions. So let us get into the topic. So meiosis, first I'll start with the introduction of the topic. Introduction. So introduction, first I will start with what is the definition of meiosis. Meiosis is called as reduction division. It is called as a reduction division because there is a reduction in chromosome number. Chromosome number is reduced. There is reduction of chromosome number to half. Chromosome number is reduced to half in any cell. Suppose a cell is dividing. The daughter cells which are formed, they have half the chromosome number. That's why it is called as a reduction division. And meiosis is a very important process. It is a very important process in all sexually reproducing organisms. Sexually reproducing organisms. It is very, very important because in sexually reproducing organisms, the chromosome number has to be maintained from one generation to the other, and that is done with the help of meiosis. So it is very important division for maintaining constant chromosome number from one generation to the other generation. So it maintains constant number in sexually reproducing organisms, and meiosis is considered to be opposite to the process of fertilization. Opposite to the process of fertilization. Fertilization doubles the chromosome number and meiosis reduces the chromosome number. Meiosis is mainly involved in formation of gametes. So gametes always must have half the chromosome number to that of the parent. So when two gametes fuse, they restore the chromosome number for the next generation. So meiosis and fertilization, they are opposite to each other. For the word opposite, the word antithetical is also used. Antithetical. Antithetical also means opposite. That means meiosis and fertilization, they are exactly opposite or antithetical to each other. So, if we understand this in terms of sporophyte and gametophyte, suppose the higher plant body, the dominant phase is sporophyte, and sporophyte gives rise to gametophyte. That means haploid stage. So here 2n stage will be converted to n stage. So when 2n is converted to n stage, here meiosis is required. Similarly, when gametes are formed, gametophyte will be converted into sporophyte, and this takes place by fertilization. Thus, meiosis and fertilization, they are the two opposite processes, or it is described as they are antithetical to each other. Now let us go through little bit about the scientists who are involved in the process, in the understanding of meiosis. So I give you the most important scientists who are involved in this study. 3 important scientists I am going to mention. First, August Weismann. August Weismann was the first one to discover meiosis in animals. First one to discover meiosis in animals. Then Strasburger was the first one to study meiosis in plants. Studying meiosis in plants. And the term meiosis was coined by the 2 scientists, Farmer and Moore. Farmer and Moore coined the term meiosis. They coined the term meiosis. So these are the 3 important scientists who are involved in the study of meiosis. Now, next part of this topic, I am going through the introduction now. The next part of the topic, we will start with what are the different types of meiosis. Types of meiosis. Depending upon which cell is undergoing meiosis, meiosis is of 3 different types, and one very important term here you should know is the cell which is undergoing meiosis, that is called as a meiocyte. So here the word meiocyte, what is the meaning of meiocyte? It is the cell which undergoes meiosis, or the cell in which meiosis takes place. So the cell in which meiosis takes place is the reproductive cell, or it is called as a germ cell also. It is called as a germ cell or reproductive cell. And the products which are formed out of meiocyte, those are the daughter cells, and they are also called as meiospores. They are also called as meiospores. So meiospores means they are always haploid, and meiocyte is always a diploid cell. Now let us start with what are the 3 types of meiosis. 3 types of meiosis. So first type of meiosis is called as zygotic meiosis. Zygotic meiosis. That means meiosis taking place in the zygote. That is called as a zygotic meiosis. So here what is the meiocyte? Here meiocyte is zygote. Meiocyte is zygote. So this takes place, this zygotic meiosis is seen in lower plants. It is found in lower plants like algae and fungi. You know, algae and fungi together, they are also called as thallophytes. These are also called as thallophytes. Algae and fungi together, they are also called as a thallophytes. So here we find zygote undergoes meiosis, and this zygote will form haploid spores. Haploid spores. And these haploid spores, when they germinate, they give rise to haploid plant body. In these thallophytes, the plant body is haploid. That is, it is called as a gametophyte. So, in order to form haploid plant body, here the zygote will undergo meiosis, and then it gives rise to haploid spores, which on germination they form haploid plant body. So, this is called as a zygotic meiosis. Now, the second type of meiosis, it is called as sporic meiosis. The second type is called as a sporic meiosis. Sporic meiosis is that which takes place for formation of spores. Like here, the meiocyte is a spore mother cell. Meiocyte here is a spore mother cell. It can be a microspore mother cell or it can be a megaspore mother cell also. So this is found in all higher plants. It is found in higher plants. What do we mean by higher plants? Starting from pteridophytes onwards, where the diploid phase is a dominant phase. So here sporophyte. In higher plants we find sporophyte is a dominant phase. This sporophyte will have spore mother cells which are diploid. Sporophyte also, you know, it is diploid. And these spore mother cells, they undergo meiosis. And when they undergo meiosis, they form haploid spores called as a meiospores. Haploid spores called as a meiospores. And these haploid meiospores will give rise to the gametes. And gametes on fusion will form zygote. And zygote on further development can give rise to a sporophyte. This is what is the life cycle in case of higher plants, where it is called as a sporic meiosis. Now let us see the third type of meiosis, which is called as a gametic meiosis. The third type is called as gametic meiosis, or this is also called as a terminal meiosis, gametic or terminal. Likewise, the other two, zygotic is called as initial meiosis and sporic meiosis is called intermediate meiosis. Intermediary or intermediate meiosis, and this is called gametic or terminal meiosis. This is found in animals. Animals, there is no spore formation. Including humans, there is no spore formation. There is only gamete formation. So here, meiocyte will be a gamete mother cell. Gamete mother cell. Like we call it as oocyte or spermatocyte. Oocyte or spermatocyte. These are the reproductive cells, diploid reproductive cells. And these diploid reproductive cells, when they undergo meiosis, they give rise to the haploid gametes. This is called as a gametic or terminal meiosis. So these are the different types of meiosis. Now, next topic we will discuss here is, we will start with meiosis. So before I start with the process of meiosis, first I would like to discuss what are the key features of meiosis. Key features of meiosis. What are the key features, main important characteristic features of meiosis? So let us see. I'll list down one by one. So first one we can say takes place in germ cells or reproductive cells. Takes place in germ cells or reproductive cells. And always it takes place in diploid cells only. Always it takes place in diploid cells only. Meiosis cannot take place in a haploid cell. Then, nucleus divides twice and chromosome and DNA will divide once. Nucleus divides twice, chromosome and DNA will divide once. Before meiosis, DNA replication takes place. Before meiosis, DNA replication will take place. Pairing of homologous chromosome will take place. Pairing of homologous chromosomes. Pairing of homologous chromosomes will take place. Pairing of homologous, that is very important feature. And 4 daughter cells are formed. 4 daughter cells are formed which have half the chromosome number and DNA to that of the parent cell. So this I am going to discuss this point along with the example. So the 4 daughter cells which are formed, they have half the chromosome number and DNA. So these are the important features of meiosis. Now next I will give you the summary of what are all the divisions taking place in meiosis, process of meiosis. So let us start with the process of meiosis. Process of meiosis. I will give you first a summary of all the stages, then we can discuss in detail. So meiosis. Meiosis is divided into 2 stages. One is called as a meiosis 1 and meiosis 2. Meiosis 1 and meiosis 2. So meiosis 1 is the longest phase and it is considered to be further divided into substages. So we can divide meiosis 1 as, first we can take as karyokinesis. Karyokinesis, that means you know nuclear division. Karyokinesis 1, nuclear division. Karyokinesis will be further divided into different stages. It is divided as prophase 1, metaphase 1, anaphase 1 and telophase 1. Telophase 1. And then we can say cytokinesis 1. Cytokinesis 1. So this prophase 1 can be further divided. It is a longest phase and prophase 1 is further divided into 5 subphases. 5 subphases. Leptotene, then zygotene, diplotene, and after zygotene we have pachytene. After zygotene we have pachytene, and then diplotene, and then diakinesis. So these are the 5 different subphases in case of prophase 1. Now similarly meiosis 2. Meiosis 2 also we can divide as karyokinesis. Here also it takes place. We call it as 2. Karyokinesis 2. Similarly cytokinesis, that is division of cytoplasm, takes place, and further it is divided into different types like prophase 2, metaphase 2, anaphase 2 and telophase 2. So these are all the different stages which we are discussing one by one, and in between meiosis 1 and 2 we have a stage called as this we can take it as a resting stage also, just like interphase, but it is not exactly similar to interphase. This is called as interkinesis. It is called as interkinesis. So in interkinesis, all stages are present just like interphase. There is a G1 phase and G2 phase, but interkinesis is there is no DNA replication. There is no DNA replication. So this is the overall summary of what is meiosis. We will be discussing one by one. So for this session I will conclude. I will just start in my next session. I am going to start with the meiosis 1. So meiosis 1, in one part I am going to complete prophase 1 in one session and remaining I will be completing in the other session, so that it will be very easy for you to follow. So I'll conclude here, my dear children. Thank you very much. We'll meet in my next session. Have a good day.